It's Friday. It's time for another truck news recap. This week we're talking about Jeep hybrids catching on fire. We have shocking kind of details with that. We also have information about Rivian. Are they going under with production concerns? Is supply going to be an issue for those guys? We have details from the port strike we talked about earlier on this week. And yeah, let's go ahead and dive into this stuff. Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk. Once a week, I try to do these truck news recaps on a podcast as well as a video or give you more details to stories that went live this week and videos. And we just kind of have a good time with this stuff. So let's go ahead and dive into this week's truck news recap. This recap is sponsored by Warren. Warren Industries have a new Xeon XD winch, and their new winches are made in the United States. They have more bulkier and stronger materials. I guess bulkier is not the way to say it. Stronger materials, stronger line. You have rebates going on the website through October 31st. Make sure you check it out on warren.com. I think the screen's changing here in a minute. It'll flip to the discount here in just a second. What they have for their discounts. There it is. Xeon winches, they have a rebate when you go ahead and buy this winch. So let's get to more of the details going on in this truck news recap. Thanks, Warren, for sponsorship. Oh, here it is. $100 rebate for Xeon and VR Evo winches. So the first news story we have just went live yesterday. Or a couple days ago. I haven't a chance to write this up on our website yet. But Jeep is telling people that park their Wrangler and Grand Cherokee 4xe plug-in hybrids outside, they have seen multiple fires. And so they are going to recall more than 194,000 plug-in hybrid vehicles as produced last couple of years. It's looking at the 2022-2024, I believe was what I saw in the story. I'm going to scroll down for a second. 2020 to 2024 Jeep Wrangler 4xe and 2022 to 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe's at risk. They've seen 13 vehicle fires so far, and many as 5% of nearly 10,000 vehicles produced could be impacted by a defect that would cause a fire. This is really bad news for those owners, and I'm going to say it's even worse news for Stellantis, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this graphic on the screen, you can see what shows the 4xe. You have a battery in the back, you have a 2-liter four-cylinder engine up front, and so the battery, you plug it in, you get like 20, 30 miles of range. And then when that's drained, the engine recharges the battery, which interestingly enough, we've seen some studies out there and some anecdotal stories of people that just don't plug these in. They buy the plug-in hybrid, but never plug it in, never bother with it. But they wanted the tax rebates like in California or places, or in certain states or carb-only states that will give you some rebates, or you only can buy the 4xe in a sales lot, according to Jeep. They've said this. What I think is a bigger issue here, and the reason I want to say it's two-part, is number one, yeah, it's really bad for the owners, right? Now you're really concerned your vehicle's going to catch on fire, your house going to catch on fire. That's a really big issue. But I think the bigger issue is Jeep has gone all in on 4xe's, right? So they're going to build them now. And the Gladiator is going to have 4xe's. Their entire lineup's going to have the 4xe, the plug-in hybrid. And we're seeing concerns about fire risks with these. That is really bad marketing right now. Really bad, people going out there to buy new 4xe's going, hey, wait, weren't these already catching on fire? So they're trying to use this 4xe as a platform to launch multiple vehicles and really increase sales, which sales are down quite a bit, right? Because Jeep Wrangler hasn't been updated too much in the last couple of years. And the Bronco came around. The Ford Bronco, I actually have one right outside my house. I've been testing. It's a lot better than a Jeep Wrangler. It flat out is. I like the Wrangler. Don't get mad at Jeep fans. But if you haven't driven the Bronco, my goodness, the Bronco to me fixes all the faults of the Jeep Wrangler and is a really good vehicle. And now you have competition with the Bronco and against the Wrangler. You have declining sales. You have a CEO that may get replaced. And there's news with Doris getting replaced. You have the UAW mad at Stellantis, and now you have the 4xe's catching on fire. And the 4xe is going to be your new kind of nameplate for all this kind of stuff. And really, really trying to get customers to buy into the 4xe and get excited about 4xe's. And now they're catching fire. Bad news. Yeah, I just think the timing of this is just terrible for the brand as they ramp up production of Gladiator, 2025 Gladiator, that will have a 4xe version of it sometime model year. Would you buy one if the Wrangler caught on fire? How do you know? How do you know it's not a Gladiator issue? I don't. It's going to be rough with that. And I think the bigger issue is now that 4xe's are known to catch on fire. If that becomes common knowledge throughout the entire industry, right, of consumer shopping, how do you sell them? Moving on, we have some details. Rivian, this is interesting. Rivian lowered production. I actually talked about this in the sales recap earlier this week, and the shares have fallen. They missed their quarter 3 delivery expectations, and they changed the production target from 57,000 units to between 47,000 and 49,000 units. What they say is they're having an issue. I'm scrolling down a little fast. Is that because of a production disruption due to a shortage of a shared component for its R1 vehicles and commercial vans. And so a Rivian spokesman said the problem is with a part for its in-house motors. And CEO RJ Scaringe, I think as I say it, Scaringe, told investors at an investor conference, we've had a couple of supplier issues of recent that have been challenging, in particular, a few issues around our in-house motors with some of the components that have been painful and a reminder of just how multi-tiered the supply chain can be difficult. So I think this may be a really big issue for Rivian. And I think it's a big issue for a lot of brands is that suppliers are trying to build enough supply parts for now a larger range of automakers who are trying to go EVs, like EV startups like Tesla, Rivian, the Scout brand's coming back and give you EVs. You got GM trying to ramp up their EV efforts. You got all these brands that are building more EV stuffs. There's not enough suppliers for all this kind of stuff. And so I just kind of wonder if this is going to be a big issue for Rivian. Like, are we going to see this more and more as suppliers get stressed out? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. And then you have issues like the port strike, right? We talked about this earlier in the week. I made a big deal about this, and people. It's funny. One of my friends on Facebook said, "Well, American-built trucks don't get stuck on docks and barges. Their parts do. Parts are the big issue here. You got. I just talking to a friend of mine, David Boyd over Alternate Nation, and it was interesting during the Ukraine war. We learned that most wiring harnesses are built in Ukraine. So if you have a problem with the supply chain due to war or due to the ports or shutting down, or in Rivian's case, you have so many people that are not enough people are building enough parts to get you the parts to build your own vehicles. Now you're having delays. And when you have delays, what do consumers do? Consumers go shopping elsewhere. I can't get a Rivian. I wanted one, but I'm going to go buy a Tesla instead, or I'm going to buy the Chevy Silverado EV instead, or something like that if you're buying the R1T. They're looking elsewhere. Scout's going to come out with competition. So you have competition, part shortages, you have disruptions globally in the supply chain. It's funny. People keep telling me that the supply chain, Tim, is old news. It's not a big deal. Nobody cares. Supply chain's all better. No, it's not. We're going to keep having more and more issues as we have more happening with the ports, more happening with wars globally, and more production of vehicles that are newer. EVs are newer, and so parts supply is going to be an issue for a while. So I really do wonder about the big long-term ramifications of this. So I probably went too long-winded with that. Tied two stories together, but I don't know. It just raises questions in my head, like what's going to happen in the future? Are these EV manufacturers going to have enough suppliers to build their unique parts for their batteries and motors as they keep changing designs? Because engines have been consistent for decades now, and hundreds of years actually, and the EVs are so different, so new, so unique. It makes me wonder. All right, over on the website pickuptrucktalk.com, we have details. I talked about the port strike. I talked about Q3 truck sales. By the way, I'm going to bring up this chart real fast. There was a problem in the truck sales video that I didn't really catch at the time. I maybe should have recorded that, re-recorded it. I can talk today. But I want to point out one thing. Somebody had pointed out the Tacoma. So what I do is I get all the sales sheets and I start typing them all up and I put it all together, and I was trying, and I reuse the same form time and time again, because why recreate the wheel? I had the last year to date number was incorrect. It was 119,000 in the video. And the number, the year-over-year change was fine, and the sales date was fine. Somebody actually asked a question. I said, I can't believe that year to date, Tacoma has sold 126,000 units. And I double checked that, and they did. They have sold 126,000 trucks year to date. Now that's down 29.4% versus year to date last year. I think a big part of that is going to be the 2024 model was just starting to roll out, and people like me, they wait until the new model comes out. And so I think as you'll see production increase to the 2024 model, we get more supply. Remember, the hybrid was kind of pushed back as well. You'll see sales will go up. I'm not so worried about that. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I had to go back and double check that number. And yeah, they are down 30%, but I think it's going to ramp up. I think they'll be fine. The Colorado, though, somebody else pointed out, the Colorado and the Canyon combined are getting close to snipping the heels of the Tacoma. And I've said on this channel multiple times, I've done build and price videos and things. I think the Colorado is a really good competitor to the Tacoma. And I think the price point of the Colorado and Ranger are a lot better than Tacoma. We had a trail hunter this week, and my wife is shopping for a new truck. I want to buy her a new mid-size truck. I'll have a full-size truck, show a mid-size truck, and she took the Tacoma for a drive, and she's like, "Okay, this is one we can look at." And it was a trail hunter. I'm not going to buy. I'm not going to spend $65,000. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to on a mid-size truck. And I told her, I said, "Yeah, Tacoma. A lot of people like to watch videos in Tacoma. It's a true fact, but it's going to be more expensive than the Colorado and Ranger." And I know people will say, "No, Tim, it's not. It's look at the contents. Look at this." I've shopped for Tacomas for years, and I don't get the same discounts. I don't get the same incentives, and I don't. It seems like they're more expensive to me. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. If you've cross shopped those, I know a friend of the channel, Ben and Beta, has, and him and I've talked about it. He feels like there's more content on the Tacomas when you buy them versus the Colorado and Ranger and even the Frontier. But for the stuff I use it for, I don't know. I don't know if I can make the case on that. Okay, so on the YouTube channel, what did we cover this week? I did the port, I did sales, similar things. I did a Buick Encore GX. I guess I called it a compact, not a subcompact. Somebody correct me there. Interesting. But I want to get to the other news item was the Ford Expedition. And I didn't talk about this on the website, but it's on the homepage of the website. I have a story on it. If you haven't seen this video yet, I got to tell you what, I was really blown away by the Ford Expedition. Now, why? I didn't think the prior generation was that competitive. It was plasticky. I didn't like what they'd done with it. I didn't like the way the seats looked. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I get it was me issue. I just didn't find it that attractive. And I didn't find enough features in it I really liked. It. Nothing really about it stood out to me, is a better way to say it. And it felt like it was old in the tooth, hadn't been updated in a long period of time. And I bought a 21 F-150, and I really liked my F-150. So I'm not a Ford hater here. It wasn't one of my, and the Timberline nameplate for the SUVs, not Tremor, and I thought that was dumb. Why not just use Tremor? And then they did. So they're using Tremor, and then I showed my wife this morning. I showed her the rear seat cargo area where you have this tray you can use, don't have to use it, but you could do your own multi-tiered system of storage in the back if you wanted to, and that you could do a little fold-out tray for like a little buffet thing if you're at the tailgating, tailgating camping. I don't know why in my head couldn't get that out, but you can have multi-layer stuff there. And I thought you could sit back on it, have a backrest, which is great. If you ever sat in a tailgate or something, your lower back usually hurts because you're kind of sloped over like this. So it's nice to have that. I thought using Google Maps only as navigational software, not having their own in-house navigation, was awesome. I thought the storage, hidden storage up front for the purse or a merce or man purse, whatever, if you're that fashionable kind of guy, was a great thing. I found a lot of things, and I like the Tremor package. I thought was really cool too. And I like the dumb things. Like somebody on TikTok said something that was a little dumb, I thought. But he goes, who cares about the accent color on the wheel of the Tremor? That's a joke. They don't think we can find the air inlet. So if you haven't seen this yet, the wheel is black, and then they painted the orange stripe, orange triangle over the air inlet. And why they do that? Well, if you're on a trail and you're trail driving, you tend to lower the air pressure, especially if you're doing some serious off-roading. So you have more rubber on the road and stop punctures going through the tires easily. Just putting a little color there makes it a lot easier to find that, especially when your tire gets all dusty and gets covered with stuff. It's just easier. I thought it was just a clever little thing. It didn't cost me any money. They just called the wheel guy and said, we want all this black and a little bit of that. I don't think it's that big of an expense, maybe a couple cents here and there. But I just thought it was a smart thing, listening to customers and getting that kind of innovative thinking. Here's something our customers do with a vehicle. How can we make your life a little bit easier? We can put a little triangle there. They can say, hey, there's my air inlet, a lot faster than they can with everything black and everything covered and dusty. And I don't know. I just thought that Ford did a good job of that. And sometimes I'm critical, very critical. Sometimes I'm not. And I haven't driven it yet. And I don't know how it's going to drive. And I don't know all those driving dynamics and things. And I haven't lived with it for a while. But when I saw it, I was pretty impressed because I thought the Sequoia was a miss. And I think the Tahoe is better, but it's an evolutionary step better. It's not like they did a whole lot. I feel like with the Ford Expedition, they did a lot to improve it. Yeah, some people are just saying just a refresh, but I think it's those small little details. And I can tell you, her eyes lit up on some of those details that are going to convince customers to buy that over the Tahoe. And I get to drive Tahoe next week, so I'm excited for that too. So I'll be interested to see what comparisons going on in my head as I drive these vehicles around. But it's I don't know. Watch a video. It's really good. And speaking of videos, watch other videos over here. Yeah, always check them out. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you down the road.